As the final buzzer sounded on the Pistons' 2023 season, two die-hard fans, Mickey and Harry, each passed out and witnessed a vision. They were visited by Detroit's very own mascot, Hooper, the stallion ablaze, who told them the only way the Pistons would ever win a championship again was if these two men started a podcast. To be clear, they said, do we really have to do this? I mean, aren't there enough Pistons podcasts already? It seems like this might be overkill. But Hooper dunked on them, right in their face, and said, your team needs you. He presented them with a prophecy. Now it is their duty to help Detroit rise again and become champions. The Order of the Blazing Horse. Welcome to another episode of The Order of the Blazing Horse, your only Detroit Pistons podcast based on a mystical prophecy. I am one of those prophets, Harry Moros, joined as always by my co-prof, my good buddy out on the West Coast,
Mickey Jacobs. What's going on? Number one Pistons podcast based off a mystical prophecy. Name another one. You can't do it. We got the market cornered.
And we are so fortunate to be joined by a true talent in the world of basketball stats and draft analysis. Just an absolute stud when it comes to the streams and the podcast. You might know him from No Ceilings NBA, his written pieces, his video pieces, the podcast, Minneapolis's finest, but Lions fan. Tyler Metcalf is here. What up, Tyler? May the 3 and D be with thee.
How's it going, guys? Happy to be on.
It's a pretty good time to be a Lions fan in Minneapolis, because you've also the Vikings are doing well too. You can't lose, really.
Well, this Sunday is going to test a lot of friendships and relationships up here. But you know what? The Lions have been in my life longer than some of these friends, so screw them if I have to.
Yeah, screw your friends. I can get on.
It's kind of messed up that for the first couple seasons ever, the Lions are good and the Packers and the Vikings are still competent and the Bears still have this really exciting future going forward, and it's our turn.
You're so nice.
Take a step back, be trash for a decade. This is our time. We did our time. Now it's your turn, and they're just not following suit. So
I don't know. Fair is fair.
You know what? First of all, the Bears are trash. I'm sorry, Chicago. I'm born in Chicago. I love Chicago, but the Bears are a trash organization, and they know it. I feel bad for Bears fans. There's no need to sound on them. I love that Green Bay and Minnesota are also kind of good, but the Lions are better. That's got to feel so much worse, I think. It's like, we're doing okay, but we're worse than the Lions, dude. That sucks.
And we still have 20 guys on IR, and we're still better. So, it's a great time to be a Lions fan.
Oh, man. Speaking of IR and speaking of the Lions, not unlike Aiden Hutchinson taking a body to that leg, we got to start out. The news, everyone's talking about it. No one's watching it. Jaden Ivey's going to be out for a minute. Broke his fibula. Thank God that's all it was, though. He's going to be reevaluated in 4 weeks. No ligament damage, so that's great. I've sprained an ankle before, couldn't walk for 8 months. I've broken a nose, hurt like hell, but I was back breathing, That's no big deal. Broken it 7 times, as a matter of fact. And you can keep on working through those things. So happy it's a broken bone. Happy he'll be back soon. But it's a tough blow because he was playing pretty incredible basketball. Mickey, how do you make you feel just watching that guy today or in the past week?
Yeah, watching him go down was heartbreaking. He, since coming back from his knee soreness, he had been shooting lights out, good amount of turnovers in this latest game, but just been super efficient, making good reads, and just playing winning basketball. So it's a huge blow, and you just saw too the way all the players were emotional and gathered around. This is a hit for the team for sure. How'd you feel?
Heartbroken. Because he was playing so well. I think he was shooting in this last stretch 56 from the field, 65 from 3 over 5 games, averaging 19, 4, and 3. Just looking great and scoring with the little midi floater, driving to the lane, and from 3 just sensational. The 3-point game is nuts, and it's it's really opened up his game. But I want to kick it to Tyler because Tyler wrote about that. They at No Ceilings were following this guy when he was at Purdue, talking about him as a draft prospect and what he would need to do to be successful. Tyler went back in this year to go back and look and see how Ivey's been. What have you seen, man? Tell us about it.
Yeah, and at the start of the year, it was a huge change in his kind of shot distribution, where it was more back to what he was doing at Purdue, where it's all at the rim or from three, and he just took the mid-range game out, basically. He's never been a good mid-range shooter, so stop trying to force that shot. It's a bad shot for him. Stop taking it. If you look at the numbers today, though, he's almost reverted back to almost an even third split between the rim, mid-range, and from three, and the scoring efficiency numbers in all three areas are almost identical to his first 2 years in the league, except from three, where he's up to 42% from three. I think he's 44, 45% from above the break, and that's really been, weirdly enough, the only change in his scoring, but it's a big one, obviously. How sustainable is that? It's kind of tough now that he has a broken leg, but that's kind of the sign that you wanted to see. It would have been great if we could have seen him start attacking the rim a little more, stop settling for the mid-range stuff like he was this last month or so. But I kind of get the temptation to do that when you're shooting that well, especially from outside. And now you get downhill a little bit, you get the defender on their heels, you step back, and it's like, oh, cool, now I have a wide open 15-footer. Unfortunately, he's just never been able to make that shot. So, we've seen it with Cade. We've seen it with everyone else on the team, how much the spacing has just made them a competent team. But it's really unlocked so much in his game as well.
It's truly sensational. Like you said, the 45% and the 42 overall. And on catch and shoots, I think he's over 45% as well. Cade's assist numbers are nearing double digits every night. And the big part of the reason why is because Ivey can shoot the ball big time. It's sick. And I think with him making it so frequently from deep, it's got to boost your confidence a little bit, right? And I think when you're feeling confident, you're making everything. I know there's a whole debate about whether momentum's for real when you're shooting or not. But just from a playing experience, when I'm feeling good, I'm making more shots. It's just in my head, I'm going to make it, I'm going to take it, I'm going to feel good doing it. And you get into this almost you feel this body sensation of flow of this is how I should be shooting, this is how I should be working. And it sounds like working with Fred Vinson's been great because Fred Vinson says, I don't change a whole bunch. I just tweak a couple little things so you do your form as best you can. So do you think that's why? Have you noticed anything in his form in particular, or is it just shot selection? What's your analysis there?
Yeah, and Fred Vinson's long been one of the very elite shooting coaches in the league, up there with Chip England, formerly in San Antonio, now with OKC. And Vincent came with Trajan Langdon from New Orleans, and we saw how much guys like Herb Jones and Trey Murphy and Brandon Ingram and all those kind of guys continue to grow as shooters down there. And that's the hope with a lot of these young guys who have questionable shots in Detroit, with Asar and Holland and Ivey and Cade. It's kind of a long list. He's got quite a task in front of him, but we're kind of seeing it already with Ivey. And what you mentioned with what he kind of aims to do is what I think most really good shooting coaches do, which is tinker with what the form already is and don't overhaul it into something that's so uncomfortable that the guy loses all confidence in it. A guy like Johnny Davis and Washington, and his shooting form was overhauled 3-4 years in a row, and every single year it looked totally different, to the point where it's all right, now it's you're having shoulder issues and you're getting hurt and you lose all confidence. So instead, just tinkering with small things. Who cares if it looks a little funky? If it goes in, that's all that matters. Tyrese Halliburton, it's not the most natural shooting form, but it goes in. Jaden Ivey doesn't have Klay Thompson's jumper, but it's starting to go in because it's comfortable and they're building that confidence in it. And then once that shot starts falling, it just opens up so much with his ability to attack closeouts, create for others, and just kind of keep the offense flowing and not be so one-dimensional.
Yeah, for me, the first time I remember seeing a shooter and being like, you can shoot like that and make it, this is a throwback name. You guys remember Kevin Martin on the Sacramento Kings?
Oh, yeah.
It was one of those hideous shots I've ever seen. I even tried to shoot like that when I was playing rec ball, and I was like, there's no way. There's no way. And that dude was lights out for a little bit. But yeah, the three ball has been great. Overall, like he's eligible for an extension at the end of this season. We had an extendometer running on him. I was running hot at like 6 right now, 6 out of 10 with this recent set of play. Mickey, where were you at with them at the moment?
I was between a 5 and a 6 too. Between the game winner, the last second 4-point play buzzer beater, and just his efficiency and improved playmaking, like in recent weeks, because to your point, Tyler, like he's a streaky shooter historically. So it's not uncommon for him to put a week together worth of games where he's shooting like 60 something % from the field. And then you'll see, cold stretches. But he was really shut me up because I feel like he's special and he's really shown some magic and just his ability to make crazy plays happen and close, as Harry brought up off the pod. But I still have questions about the fit with Cade and just having two guys with a lot of usage who are both pretty turnover prone.
Yeah.
That's what I struggled with.
That Jaden Ivey can be the chip to Cade Cunningham's Dale, or however you want to put those, or the chip to his salsa, whatever, the chip to his something, the chip to his poker. Can they work together?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think I'm not sure Ivey's, projects as like a number 2, like a true number 2 on a title team, like a Jaylen Brown to Jason Tatum or, Chris Middleton to Giannis or something like that. But more so in like, if he's like your 4th guy in the starting lineup or even 3rd a couple of years from now, I think that's something you could be really excited about. And hell, even if he's your 6th man, like a Malik Monk type of role, I think that's something where you can really get excited. And I think we've kind of seen him utilized in some of that similar fashion to Monk, where with the second unit, he's running more of the show and kind of creating out of the pick and roll. And I think his playmaking vision has grown a ton this year with that ability to find, shooters in the opposite corner. It obviously helps to actually have shooters in the opposite corner now for him to find. But, kind of like Mickey mentioned, it looks like he's just excited to be playing and refound that joy and that confidence that was totally wiped out and non-existent last year, where he was getting benched behind Killian Hayes. Sorry to bring up bad memories. But it looks like...
That's why we're here. It's fine.
He looks like the guy who came out of Purdue, excuse me.
Yeah.
Where he's this athletic injection of joy and pace and energy and scoring and fun. So I think even just getting back to that player is huge for the team and for him individually. And then you add in the playmaking growth and the shooting improvements, and it's hard not to be really excited about what he could be for this team going forward.
Absolutely. I was like, my major concern was like, okay, money wise, how's this going to work? We have so many young guys that are going to be like eligible for a ton of money. And we were looking at like Jalen Green's contract, and that's what, 3 years, 30 or something like that. 3 years, 30 a year. And Mickey was pointing out his stats are better than Jalen Green's, like kind of significantly. So is that type of money we're talking about, even though we haven't seen like super consistent play. And now he's injured. It's like, are you even going to extend him now? And if you do, what's that cost? If you can get him under 30, I'm not against that. That's pretty good with the CBA and whatnot, especially with like the cap room they have. But if we don't think that Cade and Ivey are 1-1, if it's like 1-4 or 1-3 or 1-6, you need to have some money available and space available to get whoever that number 2 is. And with where the Pistons are at right now, they don't have another team. They have some potential people that could be that, they hope. But that seems to be like the next thing that could help unlock this team's further progress from being, instead of like a near 500 team, to like an actual playoff contender. And when we're talking about getting that number 2 guy, I know some people in draft world felt this way. I didn't at first, and I still don't know where I stand, but I'm much more positive. Trajan's first pick with this team when he took over, it shocked me. I'm not sure if it shocked you all at NBA No Ceilings, but he took Ron Holland with that pick. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know about any of this when it happens. But
yeah, you're talking about exciting players who have questionable shooting. It's definitely on trend for the Pistons.
I got to say, it's been a pleasant surprise having him on the team. Part of that is that Trajan also got like legit shooting around that can like help out, and this team severely lacks in the defensive department on that like balance. But like Ron has a little bit of a SAR in that like kind of point of attack, tenacious energy and athleticism, but he's also got like a little bit more scoring juice, I should say. And it's been fun watching him progress. How do you guys feel about Ron Holland now that he's had some time to play on this team?
So when the pick was made, frankly I hated it. But then you kind of look at Trajan's background with the Pelicans and who the types of guys they targeted, the fact that he brought Fred Vinson with him, and he has this history of targeting the really athletic, toolsy, high motor guys, and with the idea that you can grow and develop that shooting. So it's a long-term play, obviously, because the efficiency numbers right now with Holland are brutal. But it's long-term, and because Pistons didn't have title expectations this year, and if you can just even get into the playing game, that'd be massive. But when you kind of look at,
we just broke our season total in wins. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's nuts.
So you're playing with house money. But I'm kind of still in the same boat where it's just kind of a big question mark right now for me, because I think the shot is about as broken as it possibly could be, where every jumper looks different. The mechanics never look consistent. 17th percentile in spot-up scoring, 7th percentile on all jumpers, 6th percentile shooting off the catch at 21.7%, 16th percentile shooting off the bounce at 27.3%. But he's been a monster in transition. Some of the defensive stuff that you mentioned, specifically on ball, I think he kind of falls asleep and gets lost a little bit off ball. He's a rookie, happens all the time. Not too worried about it, but the on ball stuff has been way more consistent than what we saw with the Ignite last year. So I'm really, now that Asar is back, I'm really excited to see what that defensive pairing looks like, because if they can really cause havoc, and they've only played like 80 possessions or something together, but their defensive rating when those two guys are on the court is at 96.4, which is in the 100th percentile.
Jeez Louise.
The offensive rating is a disaster at 87. But that's a future problem. We're focusing on the good right now. So if they can really cause havoc, really be these disruptive defenders and get out in transition where they're both monsters, it's an easy way to kind of unsettle the opposing team, get some easy buckets, build a rhythm, and just kind of have a really disruptive 2, 3, 4 minute stretch.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that come to fruition when they played Denver. Like Denver had blown them out. They were playing out of their mind for that third quarter. I think they put up like 47 points or something. The Pistons are essentially out of it. In comes end of the bench unit, and we're talking Sasser, B-Ball Paul, Asar, Ron, and Wendell Moore. And the turnovers and transition game was just, it was nuts. I think they got 11 transition points, and it was off of like 7 turnovers in that little stint. Denver had to bring their starters back in. It was a very fun and very different sort of basketball team to watch, because the Pistons don't force turnovers. They're like pretty bad at that as a whole. So it'd be,
and like even Ron's like steal and block rates are really low compared to like what you would hope for with a guy with his defensive kind of pedigree and background.
Yeah, I'll take the pestering at this point. Bobby Buckets in our chat, he wanted to know because he thought Holland was going to play with the Crews all year. I thought maybe that would be the case, but like he's being used better than any rookie on the Pistons has been used in 5 years, in that he's not starting. They don't expect like a huge offensive role from him, and he gets to play along with like All-Star Cade at this point. Now that Ivey's out, do you think he has any potential to like start just because he has some sort of defensive juice and some like finishing at the rim juice? Those numbers could definitely afford to go up. He seems to have grown as the season's progressed. So would that be in the cards, or do you think that's a poor idea?
I think that'd be a bit much right now for him, unless it's just one of those things where Bickerstaff's like, I don't want to totally disrupt the rotation, so I'm going to reach deep into my bench lineup to kind of replace a starter instead of going with the 6th or 7th guy, just because NBA guys are so routine and habit based that maybe he doesn't want to screw up that second rotation. That would kind of be the only way I would see it. I just think inserting one of the vets or would just be a little more feasible, while not overloading Holland's kind of current plate and responsibilities, and kind of try and keep things as simple as possible for him with the be a nuisance point of attack defense and just get out and run.
Yeah, I think Asar's going to start. That's what they did when Ivey missed a couple games earlier in the season. And you think about the fact that Asar is still kind of getting back up to game speed. Like, they haven't been giving him a ton of minutes. You get defense, and you can still keep THJ and Malik where they are in terms of starting and bench. But we'll see. I think, like, one of the things that's been nice for Harry and I is last season we really dreaded the bench lineup. And now we have bench guys that we're like, he needs to get more minutes. I want to see Asar more. I want to see Ron more. I want to see Sasser more. It's like guys that should be like, you're excited to see them check in, as opposed to like, oh God, here we go. it's G League time.
It's also nice that they don't all come out at the same time. But even if they did,
Sure.
I'd be in a better spot than it was last year. I think, and Bryce on the Pistons Pulse brought this up, and I think he said it again on Sam Vecini's like game theory. I also think there's a chance that Sasser starts, because Sasser's been good in his spot minutes. He can play with Cade, just so there's that size there. Sasser brings like 3-point shooting. I think he's second on the team percentage wise at like 39. Also, by the way, just to go back to 3-point shooting with Fred Vincent, Cade's up at 38% from deep. His pull up is looking good. Ivey's 42% is 70. It's like 0.07 better than his last year. It's such a jump. It's like absolutely insane. But like, if you're worried about defense and not changing the rotation and 3-point shooting, Sasser kind of solves all those problems. When he comes in, he's feisty. He gets steals, and he had a lot of experience, like kind of leading his team in college. I think he can step into that role. He showed that he can do it. How you feel about what would you do as far as like that starting lineup goes?
I love Sasser. He's so much fun. Even going back to Houston, where he was just a dog. I mean, no one's ever going to come out of that Houston program and ever be accused of being soft. So yeah, he's a little smaller, but that dude fights. He's incredibly smart. When he was during his pre-draft stuff, we did a film breakdown with him, and just the way he saw the game was really high level, and talked through it. He was just incredibly impressive. I think that makes sense because he can play on and off ball. He has a history of playing with another guard, where, you know, when he was at Houston, he split time with Jamal Shed a lot. They shared the backcourt together a lot, and he kind of played that combo guard role. So he is a good shooter. So it's not like you're bringing in an undersized guard who has to dominate the ball and create everything, who would take the ball out of Cade's hands. And whereas Asar kind of clogs up the floor a little bit more, the defense is obviously way better with him. But offensively, Sasser's going to provide that extra spacing while still being able to at least kind of hold his own on defense.
Yeah, I don't have their numbers in front of me, but I would be shocked if Sasser's defensive stats are that much worse than Ivey's. He's usually a pest.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like Ivey offers some different stuff. He's a little bit bigger. I think Ivey's probably a better blocking guard just because his recovery and athleticism is like pretty solid, whereas Sasser at point of attack can force steals pretty well. I mean, I feel like every game he's come in, he's pressuring on the inbound and getting a steal. It's got to be like 5 games in a row that he's come in and done that. And we've also seen him blow up for 20 plus. Even his rookie year against Milwaukee specifically, he tore them to shreds. So the kid's got some juice. I love his step back. He's got like one. I think he steps back further than he is tall, which is nuts for his cross. I don't know. He gets so much space, but like if he can get the catch and shoot off, which hasn't been like his big game, but if we can get that mentality into him, especially playing with Cade because he'll have those opportunities, I'd love to see it. And part of this is the Pistons are now, even with this injury, they are in an interesting position where you're in the 9 seed in the East. There's like 11 teams fighting for 10 playoff play-in spots. even with Ivy going down, you're still in that mix because they are significantly better than Charlotte, Washington, Toronto. The Bulls are trying to tank, and the Nets are trying to tank. You got this opportunity, and you have guys who can fill in to take Ivy's spot just to see if we can like tread water, potentially get better, and also it'll showcase some growth from some of these young guys. So I think they'll probably finish like roughly similar where they were going into the end of the year, which is in the play-in, or if they get to keep their pick, which is top 13 protected, probably somewhere in that like 8 to 13 range, maybe. So because we have our draft guy here, if they do end up picking in this 8 to 13 range, what are some names that look good in this Pistons red and blue?
So I still think this is going to be a really fun class, especially like throughout the lottery. And, a couple names at the very top you want to talk about just shooting and kind of feel. Con Knipple, Liam McNeely are probably two of the guys at the top of that list. And then, Asa Newell from Georgia, another kind of toolsy, really athletic, high-level defender. I think he will shoot it in time, but the shot's a little more questionable. A little bit of funky mechanics, but it looks pretty clean. It's consistent. The volume's just super low, but he would kind of fit that track record of Trajan, where really high-level athlete, awesome rebounder, terrific defender, and like some real stretch four upside. If you get him with Fred Vinson, then I buy the shot even more. That'd be someone I'd be ecstatic about, where it's like sometimes with landing spots, your perception post-draft is like, he should probably bump up on my big board or whatever. And then a couple deeper cuts, Rasheer Fleming from St. Joseph's, Nick Clifford from Colorado State, Hugo Gonzalez, who's with Real Madrid right now, and Noah Senge, who's with Ratio Farm Ulm as well. Bunch of kind of really toolsy 3-and-D type guys.
I'm so hot on the Rasheer Fleming train right now. I love the way that guy plays basketball. It's good. So fun. Also, he seems so big. Like he kind of seems like a mech playing against like a bunch of like just minions in some of these games. I know he's playing for St. Joe's and stuff, but like he seems like a specimen. So when we're talking about like him or Newell, like those guys, I don't know what their projections are in this, but is Fleming potentially a lottery pick at this point, or is he further down because he's a junior, right? But he's like a young junior.
Yeah, he's a young junior. We've had a couple guys see him in person, and they were like, holy crap, this dude is huge and just a freak athlete. And now he's doing everything consistently, because the last 2 years we've always gotten flashes of stuff with him, but now he's doing it every single game. I think he's up to like 42% from three. I don't think he's going to be a 40+% three-point shooter, but he's on decent volume. It's consistent. He's confident. So high 30s for his career with the defense and the rebounding. Showed some improved passing stuff. I would guess right now consensus is more like late first round. I have him in my top 20. I've heard of a couple NBA scouts who have him in that similar range as well. So if he keeps this up all year, it wouldn't totally shock me if he kind of creeps into that 14 to 20 range.
One of the ongoing conversations among Pistons fans this season has been our starting center position. Jalen Duren, like Ivy, is also extension eligible this year. From what you've seen, have you liked Duren's long-term fit with the Pistons? And if not, are there any potential defensive bigs or stretch bigs or just other players you think might fit better with the team?
Duren's still so incredibly young, and I know you guys have probably heard that for what feels like decades now, that I wouldn't be looking to move off of it. Early in the season, I thought the kind of two-man game with the improved spacing with him and Cade looked so much better. We get a little bit of passing stuff from him every now and then. I just get really frustrated with his like lack of consistency. So it's like, are you going to be a starter with this, or is one day it just going to flip and you're going to be like, oh, okay, here we go. And he stops being a 21-year-old and starts playing like a 25-year-old. I don't know if that switch doesn't flip, he's probably projects more as like a backup big, like a really good backup center. But there are just still way too many tools there and so much more upside for him that I would be hesitant to move off of it, especially since this class's centers are pretty rough. Not real deep. So, you got some guys like Derek Queen, Thomas Sorber from Georgetown is starting to rise up boards. Kaman Malawach at Duke. He's massive. I'm lower on him because I'm just not totally sure what he does consistently. He just feels really theoretical. Like his efficiency numbers are bonkers right now, but all he does is rim run, and his offensive role is about as simple as you could be, as it could possibly be. But he's huge. There are tools. I saw him shoot a little bit at Hoop Summit. We haven't seen any of that at Duke right now. So it's if you're looking to replace Duren, this probably isn't the draft to do it.
So Bobby Buckets in the chat. He wants to know if, with Malawach, Fred Vincent could work some of his magic and get him to be like a stretch big. Because I think part of the reason we're talking about, or we're looking at Duren more as a potentially replaceable guy, even though he's played, his chemistry with Cade is insane. Like the 8 dunks yesterday, the alley-oops are incredible. Thank God they've changed how backboards are. He'd be fined by whatever glass companies there are for scraping up all the floors with all the glass shattering everywhere. The dude throws it down real hard. But because Asar is also potentially a priority, especially with Trajan favoring athletic wings and Asar not being a shooter, it's kind of hard to have him and Duren on there because Duren doesn't offer the stretch. And he's also a little bit lacking in the defensive department. So when it comes to a guy like Malawach, even if it's not hey, we need you to start this year, is that a player, a prospect that's worth saying, hey, you can be our backup because you're so massive and you can, let's say they go out and they sign either Miles Turner or they sign Brook Lopez, who both stretch and play defense and can kind of mentor a young player like Common into that role. Is that worth a take?
Yeah, and if you're someone who has Malawach in your top 10, those are the types of guys that you hope he can kind of grow into. When I saw him at Hoop Summit, he was kind of launching from the top of the key, shooting from the corners, and it looked solid. But the fact that we just can't even get one pick and pop a game with Duke is a little concerning. So long-term, big picture, could he end up as a 37%-ish three-point shooter on Valanciunas-esque volume? Maybe, probably. And I mean, he's just massive. I'm not totally convinced that he can defend in space at all, but if you play a deep drop with him and the processing speed improves and that consistency with his rotations and just kind of timing his blocks a little better and not jumping at everything, there's a ton of upside there. I'm really picky when it comes to these massive kind of athletic bigs, and I need to see it every single night at decent volume before I really buy in, because the flashes with those guys are incredible and it's super easy to just fall head over heels for them. Also get burned a lot doing that. So
well, you heard it here first, Harry. Tyler is promising that he will shoot 37% from three.
Lock it in,
so we can aggregate that. Bank. We can go ahead and just
take it first.
I do think it's. I do think it's
Forget
funny.
flag.
Pistons fan are Fred Vincent can do anything. Fred Vincent's actually gonna make me a more patient man, a better listener. He's pretty gifted.
You know what? They got him for shooting coaching, and they also got him for the coach that you interview in the intermissions between quarters, because he's always there. He's always saying the sweet stuff. I'm I'm liking Fred. Get that face out there. Let me see this guy. I like this class too. To be honest, I think I liked last year's class a whole bunch more. To be 100% frank, I love watching all the draft classes because I'm if you're in talks of getting drafted, especially in the first round, you've got something. There's something about you that you're making it to the NBA. That's exciting. I want to see if you get to be put in the right situation and that it works out for you and you can figure some stuff out along the way. Like with Ivy, it's been very exciting watching him like grow as a player. Even with Duren, his growth is a little bit slower, but you're still seeing it. And when you see it, you're like, oh, this is sick. And that's why with Ron, it's very exciting because you can see him be like pretty rough in the first game. And then like some of his finishes as you've gone on, it's like, wow, it's incredible watching you pick some stuff up. If we know anything about history with the draft, and we covered this with our buddy Conspiracy Carl. He's explained why the Pistons are always drafting fifth. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's because according to Conspiracy Carl, the Pistons play at Little Caesars Arena. When Little Caesars changed the price of the hot and ready pizza from $5 to $8, Adam Silver, whose favorite food is the hot and ready pizza, got furious and said that the Pistons will forever be drafting at 5 until they change the price of that pizza back to 5. I guess that's just how it works.
And it's better than 8.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Tyler, you're in really good company of very credible guests, like Conspiracy Carl. You've been almost as intelligent as him thus far. So big shoes to fill, though.
So let's say they do draft at the old hot and ready price 5 again. I think you guys at No Ceilings, when you did a mock draft, you had Trey Johnson for the Pistons at 6. Tell us about that fit, because I'm also excited about that fit.
I love Trey. He's just a bucket. And he's really skinny right now, but he plays really physical. And when you kind of watch how kind of crafty and physical and mature his shot creation game is right now on a Texas team where I kind of hate their offense and he has to do so much of it, it's really, really high-level stuff where his role is incredibly elevated and complicated, and he's still dropping 20-plus consistently. I keep hearing him get dogged for his passing, too. It's like, this dude's an awesome passer. What are we talking about? Like, you don't want him to be your point guard. He's not going to be a primary guy, but as someone who can run a second-side pick and roll, attack a closeout, get downhill, kick out to open shooters, find cutters, he's really high level in that sense. So some of the shot selection stuff is I hate the Cam Thomas comp. They're totally different players in my mind. I think Trey is a way better defender, much higher level passer and more willing passer. And with that Pistons team, with Cade running the show, with Ivy running the second unit, the athleticism and size of Holland and Asar, I think he could come in and provide a ton of scoring, ton of floor spacing, while continuing to elevate just the floor of the offense's kind of ball movement and overall feel.
I love that.
Sorry, go ahead, Eric.
No, I just wanted to say I love that, because anything about getting buckets and being able to be connective tissue and being tough, weighing the same amount that I weigh, I love hearing that.
After last season's kind of underwhelming draft class, it's exciting to hear you high on this one. And we were talking about how the Pistons, I don't want to say they're overperforming, but certainly compared to last season, they're winning a lot more games. With the loss of Ivy or otherwise, do you think it makes any sense to prioritize some of the younger guys and try to lose a few more games? Or do you think that Cade and some of the others are at a level where they want to see more wins in the column than, just hope to get a, pick that, and you know about the Adam Silver hot and ready situation. I mean, everybody knows about that. It's
so they're
knowledge.
locked in at 5 anyways. So you might as well try.
Right. But I guess if there was kind of a shit or get off the pot for this season, could you play a little armchair GM for us?
I'm not sure how aggressive I would be in making moves to improve the roster or anything, but by no means would I try and tank. I think the lottery in this class is going to be really good, and there's going to be a lot of talent there that they can find. And they've done so much historically bad losing these last couple of years that
have they?
Did you guys know this? That I think you just if you're really trying to build a culture and expectations and get these guys better, you have to try and win games, because that complacency, it's toxic and will seep through and just destroy guys' development. So there's a really fine line between tanking and giving guys developmental reps to really kind of improve their game. And that's one they're going to have to walk. So I think the goal should still be, hey, get playing game, keep trying to win, and try and avoid tanking at all costs.
I have a theory about this, if I may. I think the loss of Ivy, and this is what I was alluding to about like a whole bunch of different pathways Trajan can take, that they have to play their young guys in developmental roles in order to keep winning. That will be the key to their success. Yeah, they have vets, but the vets are playing like to their maxed out roles and to their maxed out expectations right now. So now we got to take advantage of what we have in Sasser, what we have in Asar and Ron, and see them develop and put them in positions again where they don't have to be like the guy. It's not like when Cade went down and Ivy had to be the guy that year. It's not like Cade last year when he had to be essentially the guy overall. There are enough pieces on this team where just by losing one, now we're just going to see more of some other people doing some other things, but they're a good enough team. There's enough talent there where they're still going to be in this mix. And like I said before, the teams that are lower than them in the Eastern Conference are legit lower than them on the Eastern Conference, and they want to lose.
And trying to get lower.
Worse. Exactly. Yeah. So they want to be out. I think like Trajan he also doesn't need to like go acquire anybody because they're in this weird position where usually it's whoever has the most assets. Like if you have a whole bunch of picks, you are in control of what the trade market is. But because of the first apron and the second apron, and the Pistons being the only team with cap space, he's kind of in control. Not entirely. It's not like if I may use a Game of Thrones reference, it's not like he's running the kingdoms. He's more like Littlefinger in this regards, where he's like weaving some stuff here and there, just behind the scenes, making some things happen. And there's a good chance that'll result in getting some assets our way and getting a useful player our way who doesn't have to take up a ton of usage but can still help this team. So the idea of them tanking, and even when I see it online, people are like, we got to lose so we can get higher in the draft so we can get like Cooper Flatleg or Demeen, who I love. Like, I think he's a great player. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's going to be too hard to tank. Two, tanking's never done us any good in the first place. Tanking sucks. And these guys are clearly way happier right now than they've ever been. Like, let them win some friggin' games. And my big stance on it all is I really want them to make the playoffs, because playing in a playoff series, playing several games against the same team, and just knowing the toll of that on your body at the end of the regular season is an experience you cannot predict. It is something you have to live through in order to figure out and play better through in the future.
Totally agree. Yeah, and it's there are so many, like the prize jewels of this class are Cooper, Harper, and Ace Bailey. And there are so many teams so much lower than the Pistons right now. It's not worth it. Now if they suffer 12 more catastrophic injuries, things might change a little bit.
There's something about the water here.
But with how Cade is playing and how they finally just have a competent team, you have to keep building on it, especially in the first year of a new head coach, first year of a new front office. You have a healthy Cade who's playing out of his freaking mind, and looks like the guy that we thought he was going to be coming out of Oklahoma State. Why waste it? Going from the 11th pick to the 7th pick, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, there's gonna be options there. I just had one more draft question, unless you had another one, Mickey. But so Dylan Harper, he's another jumbo guard at Rutgers, 6'6". Yeah. He's the guy there right now. Pistons fans, some of them, not all of them, but some of them, salivating over the thought of Ace Bailey, because Ace Bailey's 6'10", insane shot maker, has some flaws, but everybody young has flaws, whatever. Is Dylan Harper enough of a similar player to Cade Cunningham where we can get some sort of frame of reference of how, if Ace did land in the Pistons' lap, the two could work together?
I think Detroit would be an incredible landing spot for Ace. You mentioned the size, you mentioned the shot making. No one else in this class can make the shots that Ace Bailey does. His issues right now are his handle is really mediocre. He never goes to his left, and there's almost no playmaking to his game. Good news with the Pistons, they have multiple guys who can do all that stuff. What they don't have is a 6'10", elite, lethal off-ball shooter. So I know the Michael Porter Jr. comp with Ace keeps getting thrown around everywhere. I feel like people forget how much of an issue a healthy Michael Porter Jr. was in high school and before he screwed up his back royally. So if that's who you're getting, that's an incredible fit. And then Ace has been infinitely better than Porter ever was on defense. He's in high school, he kind of was. They played a lot of zone, and he was the biggest guy on his high school team, so he kind of played a lot in the middle of that zone. So we're seeing him kind of work out some of those old habits and stuff, but so much game by game, his defense gets better. I really like most of the on-ball stuff, and the off-ball consistency and awareness continues to improve. So I think at a minimum, he has a ton of upside as a 3-and-D guy. And then as the handle improves, as the processing speed improves, as the passing improves, and especially in a landing spot that would be really favorable to his current skill set, there's legit all-star, all-NBA upside with him still.
So, Tank. Sounds like wrong team, Tank.
He needs some playoffs.
We're reading between the lines here. Yeah. We know what you're saying.
Trade Cade so the system no longer works for him. I think essentially what we're drawing from this is if the Pistons do keep their pick, there is talent literally at every point of that 1 through 13 spot and several options to choose from that will severely help this team. It will be a big help and a big boon, and I think that's exciting. While at the same time, this team can continue to win, try to get that playoff experience, try to make the fans happy by seeing them play some winning basketball. I love it. I think we're in a great place to be, and while the Ivy injury sucks, this season's been very fun. And we have some fun games to look forward to. First up, coming up against our big rivals. I don't know if you know Charlotte's like Detroit's main rivals, and the one being a bad team.
Yeah, it's a sad rivalry.
It's a sad rivalry. There's a lot of bad Jews between these two teams. They do not like each other at all. Constant fights. It's fun to watch, but it's ugly basketball. And then we're playing your boys. We got Minnesota, who is going through their own sort of transformation at this moment. But it sounds like, at least for Dante DiVincenzo, things are like turning around a little bit. So I got to ask, has Minnesota figured it out?
No. I think defensively they've kind of figured it out. This last month or so, their defense has been back to almost what it was last year. They've been really, really good on that end. Their offense is a total mess. The starters just don't fit together at all. And there's just a lot of ball stopping between Randall and Ant. They're two incredibly talented players, but there isn't that ball movement, quick decision making. It's a lot of catch, stop, survey, dribble, shoot, or here's a grenade. So the offense is a real mess right now. The second unit's been a blast. DiVincenzo's finally finding a shot. He's decided to stop shooting like 20% from three, which helps. Naz Reid rocks. Nickeil Alexander-Walker's the best contract in the league. The starters are just a horrible fit right now.
It's kind of a bummer because they had like such a sensational season and especially like playoff run last season, and they have like a lot of good talent. They have an exciting young coach, and like you mentioned, the bench. I wax poetic about Dante nonstop. Mickey knows that. I talk about him a lot. I've been talking about him since Villanova, and he loves Naw, big Naw guy. Everybody in Detroit wishes Naz Reid was on their team. We have like Isaiah Stewart is Naz Reid if offense and defense were like inverted. I think a little bit. They're similar players, they're similar body types, and not as far as like their style of play or anything, but just the sort of slider they can add to the team. So it's a bit of a bummer to hear that they're not doing so well. How can Detroit best attack and take advantage of Minnesota then?
Oh boy, I hope their starters play as long as possible. It's
such a bummer, dude. I'm sorry to hear that.
They'll figure it out. It's new chemistry, new faces, all those platitudes. The real thing is just be really chaotic on defense and get out in transition and run. The Timberwolves ball security this year has been horrible. and their transition defense has been horrible. So if you're able to start forcing some turnovers, really pushing the pace, getting out and running, and try and limit their transition opportunities as well, and force them to play more of a slowed down half court offense, there's a real chance to get some easy buckets and kind of rack up a lead pretty quickly. And the third quarter for the Timberwolves has been abhorrent all year. So make some adjustments at halftime, come out firing, and it wouldn't be shocking if you have a quick 10-0 run right out of half.
We are familiar with the third quarter over in our neck of the woods as well. Coming out the half, you still got toilet paper on your shoe, I suppose. It's a bit of a bummer. And as far as like forcing turnovers, getting a transition while not committing them, that it sounds like it's going to be a fun matchup against those two teams. I bet it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people expect it to be. And I also feel like even last season, it felt like the two teams played each other pretty well. It was always an exciting game when the two matched up. So exciting, fun stuff with Minnesota. Hope the team works out. Hope we get to see a little Rob Dillingham, as I know some people are very excited about him as well. Happy he didn't go to the Pistons, even though I think he's a great player. I just thought that was like a fit that would have been a nightmare on this team. But he's a hell of a player. Very fun stuff to watch, Rob. Okay, so we're down to our last couple minutes here, and we've gotten all this analysis out. The one thing that we haven't talked about, though, is Tim Hardaway Jr. has been playing pretty decently, and he's had some really highlight moments on this team. And despite how well he plays, even if things are going bad, if things are going good, we're always seeing his dad in the stands. And his dad, oh man, I put up the wrong one. But his dad always looks like this. He's always got this face.
Without fail.
It's nonstop. There's no filler in that face, and he's still expressionless. He's like Gen Y with a filler, but no expression. Exciting stuff for Tim Hardaway.
You don't know that he doesn't have filler, by the way.
I suppose that's true. Maybe he was on TikTok. Maybe he got roped into a little bit of that.
Just saying, he looks good.
He's glowing. I'll give him that. He's glowing out there. But here's like an example of him not showing emotion. Tim Hardaway Jr. against Miami in overtime, 3 straight buckets from deep to give the team back the lead and win the game, which is crazy. This is their celebration after the game.
And just passion.
I love you, son.
Raw elation.
I'm so proud of you.
I mean, it's nuts. So here on Order the Blazing Horse, and for those in the chat as well, if you want to participate in this game, this is such an easy game that we came up with.
Looking at you, Bobby B.
Bobby Buckets, get on it. We love you in Blue Sky. We love you in Detroit Bad Boys. We love you that you're in the chat. So participate in this game. If you're familiar with how memes work and you're familiar with this meme, this is TH Senior, face one. TH. So this is just the face Tim Hardaway Jr. makes when certain situations arise. So if you have any you want to toss out, we can go at it. Just feel free to jump in. I'll start. Why not? I'll go with mine. Tim Hardaway face when Monty Williams asks you if you can hold $20.
Wow.
Yeah.
It works perfect. Can you take it down and put it back up every time?
Yeah, I think I could. Let me see. Is it gone? Yeah. That sounds good.
Say it again.
Okay. I'll say the same one. Monty Williams asked if you can hold $20.
Yeah, there's something about it appearing there. My face when I get all the Christmas presents that I asked for. Just nothing.
Parents' joy. Tyler, you can jump into this if you want to jump in it, man.
All right, I tried to keep. I have a couple. I tried to keep them a little Michigan themed, but when Ohio State fans, when Ryan Day runs it directly at Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant for the 20th time in a row.
There it is. That is the face you made. That is the face.
I'm gonna read a Bobby Buckets one here. When Stu doesn't pop after setting a screen. I'm with it. I'm with that pretty good. Okay.
All right, I got another Pistons one. When the team falls to the 5th pick for the 2nd season in a row after having the worst record again. There it is.
That Troy Weaver face.
We all remember.
Okay. The Tim Hardaway Sr. face when the $2 hot dog in Phoenix is costing you $11 at Little Caesars Arena. It's the same hot dog. Why does it cost 6 times as much?
When everyone keeps calling LeBron's chase down block the greatest block ever, when you know it's actually Tayshaun Prince's on Reggie Miller.
Ooh,
man,
that's a welcome take.
My
that's
guy,
Homer stuff right there.
Tyler just made 1 million fans. Everyone's just watch the subscription numbers. No ceiling.
It's a good time to remind everybody to like and subscribe, and head on over to No Ceilings NBA. Do the same. Get a little cross promotion.
Show them mad love. Show them mad love.
Please,
Mickey, you got one? You want me to go to the next one?
Yeah, I got one. Tim Hardaway face when Giannis gets to the line more than the entire Pistons roster in a single game.
So we get these like 6 times a season.
Yeah.
All right. Tim Hardaway face when you look up from that 4th line of fish scale you just did off the glass table with Tom Gores. Just all gacked up. Still no emotion. Tom Gores. What a guy.
When Jim Caldwell looks in the mirror.
Hey.
Man, these Detroit ones are so good, dude. Jim Caldwell. Polar Verners for Jim Caldwell. All right. Tim Hardaway face when you see Paul Reed shoot a jump shot for the first time in your life.
There it is. That's another shot, by the way, that I sometimes I'm watching games and for undisclosed reasons, I get the other team's broadcasters.
You travel a lot.
Yeah, just travel. On the seas. You could argue, but I love hearing other broadcasters just shit all over Paul Reed's shot as he's swishing him. By the way, just ripping it. They don't care.
They really can't handle it. Like it just blows their mind. Two things are for sure going to happen. They're going to talk about how Cade should be an All-Star this year, and they're going to talk about how they can't. That somebody, I believe, one announcer said that somebody should slap whoever taught Paul Reed how to shoot across.
That's what I'm referring to. It might have been Denver.
Like, oh my god, those Denver guys! I don't know if they're feeling the altitude or what, but they were some sleepy boys. They should have put them in lazy boy chairs in the audience there. All right, what else we got here? Tyler, you got more? You doing?
I think that's all I got.
I think I'm running out too, Harry. I had a few other ones, but I think keeping it Piston centric has probably been for the best.
Okay.
You got any more?
I got one more. We did one lookalike, but this is when they put Roz from Monsters Inc. up on the celebrity lookalike on the Jumbotron, and then your face pops up. Tim Hardaway face. So that's what we got for the Tim Hardaway face. If you're watching, if you're listening and that didn't make any sense to you, it should have made perfect sense to you because you know what he looks like. It's the same face every time. But we would love to hear submissions. Like throw them our way. Meme this up. We're gonna put this out there. Meme it up. Get it out there.
We're gonna be seeing a lot more of this same face throughout the season. So start thinking of them now.
But Tyler, thank you so much again for joining us on the podcast, man. It was wait for this to go through. It was such an honor to have you on. You guys do such great work. If you guys haven't seen on the YouTube description, we've got the video link to his YouTube where he breaks down Jaden Ivey's play. There's also the link to the written article talking about Jaden Ivey, but there's so much more that they offer on No Ceilings about that. There's so much. They're really knowledgeable. They've got a great team. They go deep. Their big boards are awesome, and they write fun stuff, and they have fun shows. So, Tyler, outside of my huge plugs for you, where else do you want to plug?
No, I appreciate you guys having me on. This was a blast. At T Metcalf 11 on Twitter, NoCeilingsNBA.com, No Ceilings across socials, YouTube, all that good stuff.
So good. Thanks again for coming on. Learned a ton. Again, almost as informative as Conspiracy Carl, but you're up there.
Well, I need a bar to aspire to, so I appreciate you setting the standards. Clearly.
Just above Baloney Parker, but just right at that Conspiracy Carl. Baloney Parker is the French circus.
That's the pocket. That's the sweet spot. You want to be right there.
It's a hot show. So we'll end again. Like, subscribe, follow us. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Pods. We're on YouTube. Clearly, you're watching it right now. But we have a great time. We have a lot of fun. We try to make the season be fun along the way. And guess what? Since we started this podcast, just like Hooper predicted and told us, this team has gotten better. And yeah, the Jaden Ivey injury sucks, but you cannot have great stories without facing trials and tribulations. And this is just a moment in our odyssey to the championship. So be here with us. We'll end our show the same way we always end the show, like a horse.